If you run a dental or healthcare practice and you watch this video all the way to the end, you will discover the number one reason why the top 1% of practices make 6 and multi-7 figures a year, while other practices are struggling to even break 6 figures a year. If you're not familiar with me, my name's Isa from AdScope Dental, and we help dental and healthcare businesses attract high-value patients on demand and with predictability. So the number one reason why dental and healthcare businesses struggle to become the top 1% in their field is because they lack this one simple word: systems. You see, the number one reason I find that differentiates a top multi-7 figure dental practice as opposed to a dental practice that's barely making 6 figures a year is systems. Because you have to understand there's really two sides to your practice. There is the clinical side and then there's the growth side. The clinical side is probably something you're already very good at. Excellent dentistry, excellent healthcare, excellent treatments, excellent service, coordinating treatments, delivering fantastic and exceptional results to your patients. But the other side of your practice is the growth side. And this is where I see a lot of practices struggle and fail. And the growth side has to do with actually growing your practice, acquiring leads, nurturing leads, booking leads in for appointments, and then using KPIs and metrics to actually measure every step of the patient journey and understanding where your bottlenecks are. That is the number one reason why dental practices or healthcare practices are struggling to actually scale and grow and attract high value patients, among many other things. But I find this to be the most crucial thing that is inhibiting the growth of dental and healthcare practices. And once again, the number one thing is systems. If you don't actually have a system in place to acquire new leads, nurture leads, turn leads into appointments, and then turn appointments into new patients who are signing up for your treatment plans, you're not going to be able to predictably scale your practice and grow your practice to multi 6 and 7 figures and actually become the top 1% of your field. So you now might be thinking, okay, I know that I have a strong clinical side of my business, and I know that I'm lacking some structure of the growth side of my business. How do I actually put structure in place to manage this side of the business and actually scale it? And the answer is simple. You simply have to think in systems, and you need to build a system to attract patients. Because right now, you probably don't have any real tangible system in place to grow your practice. You're most likely relying on word of mouth and referrals. You're most likely doing general or routine treatments. You're most likely not on social media or don't have a strong online presence. You're most likely not building out robust marketing campaigns. You're most likely not aggressively A/B split testing different campaigns, ad copies, creatives, images, statics, or anything of the sort. And your reception or front house team most likely isn't skilled or trained in sales enough to actually nurture new leads. And there probably isn't a pipeline system in place in your front house team to nurture inquiries and follow up with them using multiple touch points to actually get them booked onto your calendar. So if you're struggling with that, I'm actually going to help you out and give you an exact system that we use for all of our clients to help them achieve that 6 and 7 figures a year and actually bring in a consistent stream and flow of new patients. So I'm going to hop into my screen now and show you exactly how to build this for your own practice. So we are inside of our screen now, and what I want to do is show you exactly how to build a patient acquisition system for your practice so you can really have some clarity on how to actually consistently, keyword being consistently, bring in and attract high value patients on demand without having to worry about SEO or word of mouth or referrals or any sort of method that is hard for you to track, has no real discernible way of attributing your results, and isn't really scalable, right? We want a scalable system that can easily allow you to grow your practice by just simply putting more inputs into the system. So what I'm going to do is actually, first of all, define what a system is, right? So a system is a collection of processes that is designed to achieve an outcome, right? So if I, let's use an example here. So I'm going to use a square here. And what I'm going to do here is have inputs, right? So the first step of a system is inputs, right? What do you actually put into a system to achieve an outcome? So that's the first step, right? Then the second step, I'm going to use a triangle, is the process or the actual system, right? Now, what this second step is essentially a collection of automations or a collection of processes that your input has to go through to reach the final stage, which is what the next step is going to be, the desired outcome. So I'm going to use another shape here, and let's use a circle. And the circle is going to represent the output, which in this example is going to be the desired outcome, which for your practice and for your business is most likely going to be new patients signing up for high value and high ticket treatment plans. So let's use arrows now just to drive this home. Step 1 is inputs into the system. Step 2 is the actual processes or system itself. So what, sequence of steps that the actual input will go through. And then the step 3 is actually the actual output, right? What do you actually get after achieving this system? So what can we take from this? So essentially, this being the system, you need to have 3 things: inputs, a collection of processes, and then outputs. And then to drive it home, the next step is actually going to be feedback, right? So I'm going to use another shape, and let's use this diamond shape here. And feedback essentially is reporting, right? So what kind of results have you gotten from the actual system, and how does that influence the inputs? So, what was the acceptance rates? What was your conversion rate? What was your cost per lead, etc.? What was your, what were your metrics and what were your results? And the feedback is what informs the strategy for the next stage of the system or the overall system itself. So if you run a system and you find that you generated 10 leads and only 1 person showed up and that person didn't start treatment, then you know something is wrong in your system because you're not achieving the targets you set out to achieve. So the feedback is where you make iterations to improve the system. So with this in mind, we're actually going to build this out, right? So let's start with the inputs, right? Let's make this the color yellow, or let's make it orange actually. Inputs is, let's actually define that. Inputs are basically going to be people, right? Because what you're selling is high ticket treatments, cosmetic, restorative, dentistry, or any sort of healthcare sort of treatment. And the only type of, entity or being that can buy that treatment is people, right? So the input is going to be people. But it's not going to be just any type of person, right? It's going to be a specific person who is looking for a specific solution, right? So it's going to be people with pain, right? Essentially, pain doesn't have to be physical pain, or it could be physical pain depending on what treatment you're providing. But I mean pain here in the sense of a problem that they're looking for a solution for, right? So it could be somebody who is missing some teeth. So they have pain in the sense that they lack in confidence, or it's hard for them to eat foods that they used to like, and the solution they're looking for is implants, right? So the pain that they have is missing teeth. Or it could be somebody who doesn't have a straight bite and they're struggling with that in terms of confidence, and it's uncomfortable. So they have pain in the sense that they're uncomfortable with their smile, and the solution is straighter teeth, right? So we're looking for people with pain, people with, a disposition to be attracted to the solution which you can provide, right? And then now let's define the process or system. And the process or system is simply going to be the actual patient acquisition system, right? So this is going to be a collection of processes that you're going to use to basically turn people, or basically take people through to actually become new patients. And then finally, we have outputs, right? And outputs is going to be basically people with pain signing up for high ticket treatments. So we now know what a system is, and we've defined every part or aspect of our system. And of course, feedback is the final stage, right? Feedbacking the outputs back into the inputs, so you can make iterations on your system and actually improve it. Now let's actually build out the main part of the system, which is the actual patient acquisition system. So let's actually build out the patient acquisition itself, right? Using everything we've learned so far. So let's start with the output first, and then work backwards. Or let's actually start with a sequence of outputs and a sequence of inputs, so you can basically understand what you need to do at each stage, right? They're actually made up, or because the actual system is made up of a sequence of subsystems, because there's actually stages, right? You have to actually move the patient along a sequence of stages up until the final point where they're actually signing up for your high ticket treatments, right? So we'll start with the first output in mind, which is going to be patients. So the system responsible for achieving the output of patients is going to be basically converting attended appointments into new patients. So the system here is going to be basically your sales system. How do you actually present the treatment? How do you actually conduct the consultation? How do you actually convince them to sign up for treatment? And the input of this system is going to be attended appointments, because you can't sell a patient if they actually haven't attended, right? So input here is going to be attended appointments. And what you'll see is that at each stage of the system, essentially the output becomes the initial input. So the input of attended appointments will actually be the output of the mechanism to get appointments to show up. So if I change that to a circle to represent output, and the output here was attended appointments. So essentially we built out the first system, right? The first system being attended appointments being the input, the system being the sales system to actually convert the attended appointments into patients, and the outcome being the patients itself. So now we need to build a second subsystem. Now the output of the second subsystem is going to be attended appointments, right? So what's the process for making somebody actually attend an appointment? And by now, I hope you're starting to realize that there is a structure, or there really should be a structure for every step of the patient journey that a lot of practices do not have in place. So there's no wonder that they can't grow, because they don't have awareness on actually the growth side of your practice, right? So the system here is system or process for making sure appointments attend. And then the input of this is going to be confirmed appointments, right? Because you can't ensure somebody turns up to their appointment if they haven't confirmed an appointment. The first step is actually confirming an appointment. Then you have a system for making sure that appointment attends. And then when they attend, you need to have a system to actually sell them on the treatment plan, and then they become a patient. So we're building, right now we have two subsystems in the overall patient acquisition system. What I'm going to do is fast forward and build out the rest of the system, and then come back when we have the holistic system that is fully built out. So we are back, and I have fully built out the system, and I've structured it this way to hopefully make a little bit more sense. So you can basically see that we have an entire patient acquisition system built out here, with a collection of subsystems that basically contribute to the overall holistic system. So let's go through it. So like we mentioned, we start with the first outcome in mind, and the first outcome here is patients, right? That's the overall ultimate outcome, is that we want patients. So what's the actual subsystem to achieve patients? We discussed that we need to generate, or we need to have a sales system to generate patients. But the input of the sales system is going to be attended appointments, because you can't sell somebody a treatment plan if they haven't attended. So the inputs is attended appointments. Then we go a step backwards to identify what is the output that has become the input for the system, and the previous output is attended appointments, right? Because once again, you need attended appointments to become the input for the sales system to achieve the outcome of ultimate new patients. So the output being attended appointments. What's the system for achieving that? A system for making sure appointments attend, right? And the inputs of that is a confirmed appointment. So let's say your receptionist has somebody on the phone, a new lead that they're speaking to, and they have a script. They go through a screening process and they confirm the booking on their calendar. What is then the system to make sure that booking will actually attend the practice? So the input being confirmed appointments, what is actually the prior output to convert that into an input? Once again, is confirmed appointments. So you need a system for achieving confirmed appointments. So the system for achieving confirmed appointments needs an input, right? And the input for that is going to be leads, right? So you've got leads, names, phone numbers, emails. What's the process for turning that lead who has shown some sort of interest by opting in to one of your lead magnets, whether it be walk-in, referral, Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO? What's the process or the system for turning that lead into a confirmed appointment? And then what's the actual system to achieve leads, right? So leads is obviously the output of a prior system, and the output being leads. What's the process for achieving leads? It's a process for turning people into leads, right? So the prior input for this subsystem is going to be people, right? So if we go back all the way to the initial overall holistic system that we identified, we have a input, process or system, output, and feedback. And we defined that the input is people, the process is the patient acquisition system, and the output is people signing up for high ticket treatments, right? And as we can see here, the ultimate output is patients, and the initial input is people with pain, right? And everything in between is the actual patient acquisition system, made up of obviously a collection of subsystems at each stage, right? And this is essentially the reason why certain dental practices make it while others don't, is because the dental practices that have truly understood this can leverage this to predictably acquire new patients by essentially just putting more people into the funnel, right? Just putting more people into the funnel and allowing the funnel to do its job at each stage up until the point there's a patient signing up for a treatment. So what you need to do now is define and work out what your existing system is for each stage and work out where the bottlenecks are. So a bottleneck is something that restricts throughput, something that restricts the flow of inputs into a system. And the way that we measure that is through metrics. So metrics or KPI is simply a way to measure success, right? So let's start from the first system and use metrics to define the success of each stage of the system and then work our way up. So we start off with people, and the first real system or the first subsystem is a system for nurturing people into leads, right? So this is going to be a system for turning people into leads. Is going to be something like Facebook ads, right? Instagram ads, posting on social media, doing SEO, etc., right? So how do we actually measure the success of this? And there's a few ways, right? One way I'm going to use is cost per lead, right? Let's say you're running a paid ad campaign. Obviously, if you're running a paid ad campaign, you're going to have a budget, right? And with the budget, you want to achieve as many leads as possible with that budget. So the cost per lead is an easy way to basically identify, am I getting as many leads as possible for my budget? And there's obviously going to be things that you have to get right in this subsystem, i.e. the correct language, the correct messaging, the correct copy, the correct images, the correct, language, the correct offer, things that are imperative to make sure you're getting as many leads as possible for your budget. A lot of that I'm going to cover in separate videos, so you actually understand how to, in detail, build, so you have a deep understanding of how to build, the most effective subsystems in each stage. So let's go to the second system now, which is obviously turning leads into confirmed appointments, right? And what we're going to use to measure the success of this system is simply going to be your appointment booking rate, right? Now, this is where a lot of dental practices fail, right? Because any Tom, Dick and Harry can generate leads, right? It's simple to run a Facebook campaign, run a promotion, do an Invisalign open day, and get hundreds of leads, right? Where the bottleneck typically lies is turning those leads and nurturing those leads into actual booked appointments. And the way you measure that is appointment booking rate. So what percentage of leads turn into actual confirmed appointments? And then if we move to the next system, if I paste this here, the next system is making sure that appointments actually attend, and the KPI or metric we use to measure that is going to be show up rate. So show up rate is simply what percentage of confirmed appointments actually attend the practice for a consultation, and that's how you measure the success of this. So some dental practices are actually good when it comes to booking the initial consultation, but they don't have the systems and structure in place to make sure they turn up, right? And this has to do with things like, are you taking a refundable deposit? Are you calling the lead? Are you calling the appointment 24 hours before the appointment to make sure they're going to arrive? Are you sending automated text messages and follow-ups to ensure that they actually turn up, and rescheduling if they let you know that they can't make it? That's basically the systems we need to build around making sure appointments actually attend. And then finally, a very important system is actually selling people on their dentistry, right? Typically, this is the easiest part, right? If you're a healthcare professional or dental professional and you've been doing this for a long time, you know that if you have somebody in your practice, you know how to convert them and help them start treatment, right? So this is going to be conversion rate, right? So how many attended appointments actually start treatment of yourself? So that's going to be conversion rate. And that's pretty much it. This is basically how you build a system and how you use metrics to measure the success of each stage of your system. And once you start to think like this, it becomes so clear on where the problem lies and how to actually fix it, right? Because you might find that you have a strong show-up rate and a strong conversion rate, and a strong cost per lead or a strong lead generation system, but the bottleneck happens to be your appointment booking rate. So maybe your receptionist team isn't following up with the leads, they're not making enough phone calls, they're not calling back, or they're not calling at times where people are likely to be most responsive. So you need to fix this part of the subsystem. And that's basically how it works. So once you have a streamlined operation for each stage of this overall system and every part is working and fine-tuned, patient acquisition becomes so easy. So that's pretty much it here. So to take the point home even further, I'm now going to show you using actual examples and numbers of why it's so imperative to have something like this in place. So I'm going to create a little table here using the system that we just created, and we'll put some example figures in. So welcome back. Now have a look at this, right? I've basically translated the system that we just built out into actual numbers so you can have more of a tangible example of how this works, right? So we have every stage of the system and then the metrics to also measure the success of the system. So we have ad spend, the cost per lead, the leads, then the appointment booking rate, and then the confirmed appointments, and then the show-up rate, and then the attended appointments, and then the conversion rate, and then the new patients. And then to also give like a rough estimate of the revenue that we can generate from the system, we've got treatment. Let's use Invisalign as an example. If you're a dental practice, the cost to the patient, which is around £3,000 on the lower end, and then the revenue, which is revenue based on the amount of people accepting treatment. So let's have a look at this, right? So we've got a £500 ad spend at a £15 cost per lead, right? So if you're spending £500 and it's costing you £15 to generate a lead, you're going to get 33 leads, right? Now, let's say you have an appointment booking rate of 50%. Roughly, you're going to see around 17 confirmed appointments. Now, let's say you have a show-up rate of 80%, you're going to see around 13 attended appointments. And then let's say you have a conversion rate of 40%, you're going to see 5 new patients signing up for treatment. If the average cost to the patient is around £3,000 for the Invisalign treatment, you can expect to see a revenue of £16,000. Now, what I want to do is one simple thing and show you how that can dramatically change the numbers. So keep £16,000 in mind. And now let's actually try to improve this system, right? So if I go back here, let's start over here, right? Let's say the cost per lead, right? How can we improve the cost per lead? How can we decrease our cost per lead? Is it by recording a video and creating better ads? Is it by showing customer testimonials or patient testimonials? Is it by just, working with an actual expert when it comes to building out ad campaigns to run the campaign and make sure they're generating leads as cost effectively as possible? Let's say you put all of these ideas to use, right? And you actually work on getting down the cost per lead. Let's say we get the cost per lead down by literally £5, right? You can immediately see how much more revenue you've generated, right? That's an additional £8,000 simply by just decreasing your cost per lead by £5. Simply by just becoming more efficient in how you're running your paid ad campaign, you've generated £8,000. Let's put the cost per lead back. And let's look at the appointment booking rate. So a 50% appointment booking rate is pretty good. It's okay. That's 5 in 10 leads. Let's say you got 6 in 10 leads to actually book an appointment, right? So let's change that to 60%. How much more revenue did we generate? You can see we generated about an additional £3,000 just by making one more person turn up to the consult. Just by making one more person actually confirm a booked appointment. So that's something you can achieve by making sure your appointment setting team or your receptionist team or your front house team is making an additional follow-up call, using text messages, calling multiple times a day, or calling once a day for 5 days, or making sure they are calling old leads who haven't responded with you, simply by just getting an additional just one additional person to book an appointment, you've made an additional £3,000. So let's put it back and let's look at your actual conversion rate, right? Right now it's at 40%. Let's say you had a conversion rate of 60%. Once again, that's an additional £8,000, right? So you can see that throughout this process, the better you are at building out a system that works, the better results you're going to get, right? So let's go the other way now, right? Let's put this back to 40%. Let's say you have an appointment booking rate of only 10%, meaning only 1 in 10 leads will actually get booked in for a consultation. You can see how much that has significantly dropped your revenue by, right? The problem is most dental businesses are not even tracking this, right? You're not even tracking your metrics, so you have no idea where you stand when it comes to your appointment booking rate. So you could potentially be leaving so much money on the table simply because you're not tracking the amount of people that come into the initial subsystem as a lead and come out of the initial subsystem as a booked appointment. If you're not even tracking that, then you have no idea how effective your campaign or your marketing strategy is. So let's put that back to 40%, and let's say your show-up rate is really poor. You haven't built out a show-up rate mechanism to make sure attended appointments turn up. Let's put that at 10%. That's even lower, right? You're at £1,000 revenue, simply because you're not sending enough follow-up text messages or reminding people of their booked appointments, right? So I hope you by now understand what building out a system looks like, how to think in systems, and how to actually build out a patient acquisition journey that is going to convert people into new patients. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much it. By now, you should have a strong, holistic understanding of how to build a patient acquisition machine from start to finish, what you actually need to do in terms of building out subsections or subsystems in each stage of your patient acquisition journey. And you should understand the metrics and KPIs to measure each step of the patient journey so you can easily identify bottlenecks and understand how to tackle them. So, by the way, if you're struggling to get high-value patients through the door without having to rely on word of mouth, or you have absolutely no idea where to start, the first link in the description is a little web page of me just explaining how we built this system for all of our clients and how they see amazing results acquiring and attracting high-value patients consistently and on demand. And if you're interested in how it works and you like the video, then you can schedule a call to speak with us and we can see how we can put this exact system I just covered, directly into your practice, take all of that stress off of your hands and actually help you scale your practice by building out a full-fledged patient acquisition system. That's all for this video. If you liked it, there's a button for that. Comment any video ideas or requests you have. Make sure to like the video, because that way the algorithm will feed you more videos just like this on how to grow your practice. And it really helps the channel a lot. I genuinely want to thank you for staying until the end, watching the entire video, and I hope that you've been able to take some sort of value from this video and translate that into your actual business to help you grow. That's all from me. Hope you have a very blessed day and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.